actually made it out of there. I mean, sure, that was the objective, but still. Go me!
Developer WayForward is known for the Shantae series, but they've been dabbling in creating new entries and retro IPs following the wide success of River City Girls. Now, the studio is teaming up with Atari to take on Howard Scott Warshaw's Yars Revenge IP and give it a modern facelift. For anyone who has seen or played Yars Revenge, I'm sure this may come with some confusion. I mean, the game plays as a series of puzzles as you control a giant bug named Yars and shoot down these enemy spaceship things. That's the thing about the Atari 2600. Anytime someone explains a game, it's always like, well, you control this person thing and use this oval thing to acquire this key that blows up that one set of pixel thing and from the first screen and you get in. Anyway, not to get off topic, but leave it to WayForward to take the concept of Yars Revenge and flesh it out into a Metroidvania action game that is now Yars Rising. Thank God they didn't try to reboot Yars Revenge from 2011. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this game will create a boom in Yars heads around the world, but I found the character writing and general gameplay progression to be intuitive and fun. Let's all see what Yars has been up to all these years later. Yars Rising introduces Emmy, a hacker who has just infiltrated the Kotek facilities to uncover some secrets from within the company after they discovered evidence that they are conducting experiments on monsters. Yes, that's how the introduction happens. Well, as it goes, things go from bad to worse in Emmy's case because she eventually learns more about the client who hired her and even her own past. This is a learn-on-the-go type of game. You're never in conversation for too long, and most of the lore dumps happen as you travel from place to place. The map is set up in a Metroidvania style where Emmy will eventually gain access to new tech to reach objectives, but that also requires you to master the art of hacking. As you play, terminals can be accessed, which changes the game's genre to what I would guess could be a modern Yars Revenge. Each of these terminals is home to a new type of Yars puzzle, which keeps the challenge pretty high. Very minimal instructions were given during these sections, which initially frustrated me until I actually watched Yars Revenge gameplay and freshened up on it. Surprisingly, I actually understood how to play the game for the first time in my gamer life. Now, in Yars Rising, I will say that each puzzle has a specific degree of difficulty, but there's no actual pattern to the challenges. This makes their inclusion in the game even more fun because no matter how repetitive backtracking or combat may be, a new hacking puzzle will always be waiting for you. As for Emmy's character, I actually kind of enjoyed her character writing and humor. She brought a charming punk rock sassiness to every conversation, but it wasn't overbearing. She quickly won me over with her crude humor and puns. Her character design also adds to her charm as she has various poses to accompany her reactions. The other characters also played their roles decently, with Miss Davidson stealing my heart. I mean the show. The bosses were also interesting in their introduction, but none had any real staying power in the plot, making Kotek the only real villain throughout the entire game. The gameplay is pretty standard, but it doesn't seem like WayForward spent too much time rigging Emmy with a ton of animations or actions. This general statement can be said about other gameplay elements as well, such as the limited number of enemy types, repeated room sections, and just the limited pool of available abilities. As you hack through the adventure, you'll eventually gain access to some missiles, walk-on-water options, and double jump, but it's all standard stuff that makes Metroidvanias a Metroidvania, which will be fine for fans, but nothing really helps this game stand out in the pool of others in the genre. That said, Yars Rising is a sum of many parts. The combination of mini-games, platforming sections, and taking down enemies keeps your brain from dwelling on what the game lacks, and you're left with just having fun. Like a lot of WayForward games, there seems to be systems at play throughout the entire experience that make up for systems that might feel like they were cut due to budget. That said, what's here is a fine experience capped off with a soundtrack that has no right to be this good. Seriously, there are some very fun songs in this game that range from Vocaloid to rock ballads. I'm telling you, I was vibing for the entirety of my 10-hour experience. Fatigue may possibly set in as you try to understand the map or where to go next, But this ounce of frustration was likely not even close to what a child hooking up their Atari 2600 for the first time and expecting to figure out Yars Revenge. In many ways, I feel like WayForward really stepped up the creativity to flesh out this IP, and I don't think any other developer could have hit this level of quality within the constraints this team might have been in. The result is a fun weekend game, which is exactly what I was looking for. Yars Rising brings the Yars IP to modern players in some creative ways. Emmy's attitude and sass provide an edge to the narrative that doesn't detract from some of the more emotionally driven scenes. It'd honestly be nice to see these characters reprise their roles in future installments of the series. The subtle Metroidvania systems make this an approachable entry point to the genre, but the action can actually get challenging sometimes. Nonetheless, I had a fun weekend playing this game. Thankfully, it seems like Atari finally has a nice foundation for the Yars series. I'm honestly just glad I didn't have to play another Yars Revenge 2011. Noisy Pixel is giving Yars Rising a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our feature content.
Noisy Pixel.